What if Robert Baratheon had survived, but Ned Stark had still perished? This video delves deep into that scenario. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to hit the like button. 3,000 likes will unlock part 2. As the name Robert of House Baratheon is spoken, the weight of his titles lingers in the air. He was the first of his name, King of the Andals and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. Yet, as he lay wounded, his strength fading, he made his final decree. I hereby command Eddard of House Stark to serve as Lord Regent and Protector of the Realm upon my death, to rule in my stead until my son Joffrey comes of age. Ned Stark watched with sorrow as his old friend drifted into unconsciousness. Grand Maester Pycelle checked on him and solemnly announced that the king had slipped into a coma. Though Robert still lived, it was uncertain if he would ever wake again. The news was bittersweet. His friend had not yet died, but time was running out. Ned knew he had to act fast. He moved to secure the succession, even placing his trust in Littlefinger to rally the Gold Cloaks to his cause. It was a desperate gamble, but with the king incapacitated, there was no other choice. However, his efforts were futile. Cersei had already foreseen this outcome and made her own preparations. Littlefinger, as ever, was loyal only to himself and betrayed Ned at the crucial moment. The result was inevitable. Ned Stark was captured, outmaneuvered by the Queen, and ultimately executed. Though the Stark army waged war in his name and even defeated the Lannisters on the battlefield, King's Landing remained firmly under Cersei's control. Joffrey sat on the Iron Throne, his mother whispering in his ear. Focused on securing her power, she paid little attention to her comatose husband, until the day he opened his eyes. Maester Pycelle was present when Robert awoke. The scrolls in his hands dropped to the floor as he stumbled back in shock. The king groaned, his voice hoarse but unmistakably filled with strength. "What are you looking at? Can't a man get some rest around here?" Then his expression darkened. "Get Lord Stark in here immediately. I want to ask if he's finished the errand I sent him on." Pycelle hesitated. "Your Grace, you have been in a coma for a fortnight. Much has changed." Robert's face hardened as he grabbed the old maester by the chain, yanking him close. "What has happened?" he demanded. Pycelle stammered, carefully crafting his words to shift the blame onto Ned Stark. He painted a picture of betrayal, claiming that Ned had attempted to stage a coup under the Queen's nose. But rather than pacify the king, this tale only fueled his fury. With a roar, Robert threw a goblet against the wall. "Call the court!" he bellowed, ignoring Pycelle's feeble pleas for him to rest. The lords and ladies of King's Landing gathered, murmuring amongst themselves, uncertain of what was happening. Cersei stood before them, her confidence unwavering. "The king has not yet called for court," she said smoothly. "Yes, he has," came a voice that silenced the room. The doors to the throne room burst open and Robert strode in, his powerful presence demanding attention. Gasps and whispers filled the chamber as all eyes turned to him. Cersei's smug expression faded, her face draining of color. As Robert moved toward the Iron Throne, she instinctively stepped aside. He lowered himself onto the seat of kings, his gaze locking onto hers with nothing but contempt. "You are well, husband," she said, regaining her composure. "I am, no thanks to you," Robert growled. "Traitor." A tense silence fell over the hall. Robert scanned the assembled lords before his booming voice filled the space. "Is this the realm I wake up to? I am not even dead, yet my kingdom is already tearing itself apart. Vultures circle me, and my dearest friend is dead." His gaze snapped back to his wife. "This chaos is your doing." Cersei lifted her chin defiantly. "After you fell into your coma, Lord Stark attempted to seize power. He declared himself protector of the realm, bribed the city watch, and at no point did it occur to you that those might have been my orders." Robert interrupted. Pycelle hurriedly interjected. "Your Grace, you were delirious. You were in no condition to give orders. We feared Lord Stark was exploiting your condition." The more Cersei spoke, the darker Robert's expression became. Finally, he slammed his fist on the armrest. "Enough!" He issued his first decree. House Stark was to be pardoned, and his brothers Stannis and Renly were to be summoned immediately. As for Cersei and her children, they were to be placed under guard in the Red Keep until he decided their fate. The Gold Cloaks, sensing which way the wind was blowing, reaffirmed their loyalty to their king. Yet while the court obeyed, Lord Janos Slynt knew his position was precarious. His power, his titles, and his control over the City Watch had all been granted by the Lannisters. Unwilling to lose everything, he took action. Under the cover of night, Slynt and his most trusted men broke into the Red Keep, freeing Joffrey and spiriting him away. The attempt to rescue Cersei, however, failed. She was caught before she could escape, and the next morning Robert had her executed, in full view of the people. While this sent a clear message that the king was in control, it also ensured there could be no peace with the Lannisters. Robert knew that Tywin Lannister would not let this stand. As expected, word soon arrived. Tywin was marching on King's Landing. Robert, now fully revitalized, prepared for war. He bolstered the city's defenses, hired sellswords, and ensured the loyalty of his men. Just as all seemed on the brink of destruction, hope arrived on the horizon. Stannis had come, his fleet carrying 5,000 disciplined soldiers. The city's morale soared at the sight of the crowned stag flying beside the fiery heart of R'hllor. Stannis disembarked with grim determination, immediately restoring order to the city streets. With the combined strength of Robert's forces and Stannis's discipline, the king made his final decree. Those who surrendered would be spared, those who resisted would be slaughtered. The battle for King's Landing was about to begin, and Robert Baratheon, once a shadow of his former self, was reborn as the warrior king the realm had not seen in years. Yet, as Stannis spoke his final warning, he revealed a truth that shook Robert to his core. Joffrey, Tommen, and Pycelle, none of them are yours, Robert. They are the bastard children of Cersei and Jaime. The weight of the revelation crushed him. His entire life, his supposed heirs, the justification for the war, it was all a lie. He had sat on his throne, believing himself a king, when in truth he had been a fool. His best friend, Nedd Stark, had died trying to warn him. Robert's grip tightened around his warhammer as he stared at his brother. He had a choice to make. Would he fight for his throne, for the truth, for the realm? Or would he allow Tywin Lannister to steal everything from him once again? The answer was clear. The battle for Westeros had only just begun. The grand hall of the Red Keep was filled with a heavy silence as King Robert Baratheon sat upon the Iron Throne, his fingers drumming impatiently against its jagged steel. Before him stood an ambassador from Yunkai, a tall, wiry man draped in opulent silks, his demeanor exuding a mix of arrogance and desperation. He bowed low before addressing the king. "Your Grace, King Robert of House Baratheon, first of your name, protector of the realm," the ambassador intoned, his voice measured and precise. "I come before you as a humble servant of Yunkai, the Yellow City, with a plea most urgent." Robert let out a heavy sigh. He had little patience for the pomp and flowery speeches of foreign dignitaries. "Get on with it, then," he growled, shifting in his seat. "I've no time for empty words." The ambassador hesitated for only a moment before continuing. "As you may have heard, the so-called Queen of Dragons, Daenerys Targaryen, has waged war upon the cities of Slavers Bay. She has already laid waste to Astapor and threatened Yunkai, but now she has claimed the greatest of them all, Meereen. Her sellswords and Unsullied sow chaos in their wake, toppling order and turning the world upside down." Robert's brow furrowed as he listened. The name Targaryen always stirred something dark inside him. He had thought the dragon's shadow had been banished from Westeros forever, yet now, it seemed, it had taken root in Essos, growing stronger with each passing day. He smirked, leaning forward slightly. "From what I hear, your men were fighting for her not long ago. Sellswords from Yunkai, Unsullied from Astapor. Seems to me you should keep a tighter leash on your troop." The ambassador's expression darkened, his jaw tightening as he barely restrained a retort. Robert watched him carefully, almost daring the man to let his temper slip. "May I be dazzled by her dragons," the ambassador said finally, his voice strained. "And she has won allies through treachery. You, more than anyone, know of Targaryen treachery. That is why the wise masters come to you now, humbly requesting the aid of the Seven Kingdoms against this usurper. If left unchecked, she will turn her eyes westward, and her dragons will darken the skies over your lands. Surely it is in the interest of your great kingdom to strike at this threat while it remains across the narrow sea." Robert narrowed his eyes. He did not trust ambassadors, and he trusted slavers even less. "What exactly is it you're asking for?" he asked. "Gold, ships, men. We seek your support in any form you deem appropriate," the ambassador replied quickly. "Your reputation as a warrior and a protector of your people is known even in the far corners of Essos. We have heard of your great battle where you heroically slew the mad Prince Rhaegar, the man who stole your beloved." Robert's grip on the armrest of the Iron Throne tightened. "You don't need to remind me of the trident," he said through clenched teeth. "I lived it." He took a deep breath, steadying himself before speaking again. "I didn't risk my life and kin in that war for a whim. I did so because there was justice in my cause. But tell me, if I sail to Slavers Bay, what shall I be doing? Helping you throw thousands back into bondage? If you know so much about my realm, then you should know that we do not deal in slavery." The ambassador stiffened but did not back down. "And in preventing this evil you will allow a greater one to thrive," he countered. "She has dragons, Your Grace, and she is willing to unleash them upon her foes. For now they remain small, but what shall happen when they grow larger? No kingdom, no army, no wall of stone will stand against them. The only option is to stop them now, before they become unstoppable." Robert leaned back, rubbing his beard thoughtfully. "Very well," he said at last. "I'll not dismiss your words outright. Let it never be said that Robert Baratheon doesn't consider all sides before making a decision. But armies take time to mobilize, and you have allies, don't you? The cities of New Gis and Volantis?" The ambassador nodded. "Yes, Your Grace. They are prepared to stand with us." "Then I will make my decision once their armies are ready," Robert declared. "Until then, I shall remain out of this war." The ambassador bowed again, but the tension in his posture betrayed his dissatisfaction. He had come, seeking immediate aid, but Robert had given him nothing but the promise of deliberation. The moment the man was escorted out of the throne room, Robert let out a deep sigh, rubbing his temples. This put him at a crossroads. If there was a coalition against the Dragon Queen, Westeros could take part, ensuring that she would never challenge his rule in the Seven Kingdoms. But at the same time, was he prepared to drag his kingdom into war when he was not even certain she intended to invade? The weight of the decision pressed heavily upon him. He had seen much war in his time, and though he was a warrior at heart, he was not blind to the toll it took. His mind drifted to another thought. What if he did not have the full picture? Melisandre, the Red Priestess who had found her way into his court, claimed to see visions in the flames, but she was not omniscient. There were things even her fire could not reveal. This prompted Robert to seek a more traditional method of gathering intelligence. He needed someone he could trust, someone who could go to Slavers Bay and learn the truth of this so-called Dragon Queen. That task fell to Renly. His youngest brother was charismatic, a skilled diplomat when needed. He would be sent to Meereen to meet with Daenerys Targaryen, to assess her intentions and the possibility of peace. Robert's orders were clear: do everything in his power to prevent war. If necessary, he would even offer a formal apology for the assassination attempt on her life years ago. However, the words of the Yunkish ambassador lingered in his mind. The thought of dragons taking to the skies once more filled him with unease. He thought of his visions, the ones Melisandre whispered about in the dark, shadows with wings, fire consuming the world. Just in case, he sent word to Stannis. His eldest brother was to prepare a naval squadron and mobilize a small army ready to march at a moment's notice. Whether they would march for or against the Dragon Queen, was a question that only time would answer. Robert stood upon the castle ramparts watching as Renly's ship sailed into the horizon. He let out a breath, feeling the weight of a decision not yet made. But, as he turned away, another report was handed to him, one that sent a chill through his very bones. The North was in peril. A wildling horde had marched upon the wall, though it had been smashed by the combined efforts of Robb Stark and Jon Snow. But what troubled him were the words of the captured wildlings. The White Walkers had returned. They spoke of figures wreathed in ice, of a darkness spreading beyond the wall. The dead were rising, an army unlike any that had ever been seen before. The Night's Watch urged the Seven Kingdoms to prepare, warning that this was no simple northern fable. It was real. For the first time in years, Robert Baratheon felt something he had not felt since the rebellion. Not anger, not rage, not even the thirst for war. Fear. He stood alone in the empty throne room, the weight of the realm pressing upon him. He let out a cold, bitter laugh, one that echoed off the stone walls. "So this is what it means to be king," he muttered. "To see your realm on the verge of being destroyed by ice and fire." If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. 3,000 likes will unlock part 2. Let's get it quick. Westeros is full of stories waiting to be explored, and we love taking this journey with you. Stay tuned for more.